This week's Parsha is Parshas Pinchas. So it's Yedua that they teach you in elementary school, that Pinchas ze Eliyahu. So I just wanted to say a few Mar Mekaimus on this shmooze. I want to make a disclaimer. There's no such Gemara that Pinchas is Eliyahu Hanavi. No such Gemara. The Balaturim in this week's Parsha, Perek Chafei Pasuk Beis, says Davar Acher Vav Ketia. The reason why in the pasuk it says Hineni Noisim Leis Brisi Shalom and the Vav is a little bit cut off, Ki Pinchas Hu Eliyahu, because Pinchas is Eliyahu. V'chein Eliyahu Ksiv Chaser Vav V'Yaakov Male Vav. Also it says Eliyahu 5 times without a Vav, and it says Yaakov Male with a Vav 5 times. Shenot al Vav me Eliyahu Lamashkin Ad Sheyavayim HaMashiach V'Yigal Asbanav. Rashi brings this in Vayikra, that Yaakov Avinu took a mashkin from Eliyahu, he took a vav. That's why in our parsha it says Shalom Vav, says it's cut off. It's supposed to be cut off. Rabbeinu Bachya in our parsha, in the previous pasuk, brings also that Eliyahu also said Kanei Kanesi. And he says, "V'darshi Rabbi Seinu Zalki Pinchas Eliyahu Lamadnu Oisei." Where do we know Bechlal that Pinchas is Eliyahu? Where do we know this from? It says it's a Gemara in Bava Metzia Kuf Yudalad Amud Beis. The Gemara brings a story that Rabbi Bar Avua found Eliyahu, and he was schmoozing with him and learning, and it was in a Beis HaKvaros. And he says, Amar lei lav kayin humar. Aren't you a kayin? My time a kayin mar Beis HaKvaros. Why are you in a Beis HaKvaros? So nowhere in Tanakh does it say that Eliyahu was a kayin. Zok Rashi, lav kayin mar. The ika lamanda amar de Eliyahu Pinchas. The chsiv bei kanei kinesi. Because by Pinchas it says, by Eliyahu in Melachim, when it's a story with Achav, he said Kanei Kenesi, v'chein bePinchas beKanei es Kenasi. So the same exact lashon is used. So there's a mandama that Eliyahu is Pinchas. So that's where the Rabbeinu Bachya says from this Gemara is where Chazal are coming from, at least from the Gemara, that Eliyahu and Pinchas are the same person. Because how is Eliyahu a Kain? Elamai, he's Pinchas. I mean, I'm sure there's other ways, but that's where the Rabbeinu Bachya says that Lamdu Rabbi Seinu from this Gemara. The Pirkei de Belazar says it beferish, and I think it's in Perek Mem Zayin. I'm not 100% sure. Targum Yonasan in 2 places says it. In Shmois Perek Dalid Pasuk Yud Gimel, when Moshe Rabbeinu said Shlach no biyad tishlach, Zok the Targum Yonasan, v'amar bevo berachamin min kadamach Hashem shlach kedon shlichusach biyad Pinchas, in the hands of Pinchas, the chamei lemishtalcha b'seif yemaya, that he's going to send you in the end of days. Who's going to be sent at the end of days? Pinchas and Eliyahu. Also, the Targum Yonasan in our parsha says that part of the bracha in Perek Chafei Pasuk Beis, he says, "V'abdine malach kayam v'yeche la'olam." I'm going to make him a malach forever, and he's going to live forever. L'mevasa geulsa b'seif yemaya, to bring the geula at the end of days. So it's Targum Yonasan in 2 places that Pinchas zu Eliyahu, that Pinchas and Eliyahu are the same person. And like the Balaturim saying, there's a makar from our pasuk as Brisi Shalom that the vav is cut off because Yaakov Avinu took away the vav from Eliyahu Hanavi. Now I came across this Gemara a couple weeks ago, and the Gemara in Bava Basra Kuf Chaf Aleph Amud Beis says Tanu Rabbanan Shiva Kiplu as Kala Eilam Kulei. There were 7 people that with them they surpassed the entire world. Who is that? Misushalach ra Adam, Shem ra Misushalach, Yaakov ra Hashem, Amram ra is Yaakov, Achi Ashileni ra is Amram, Eliyahu ra is Achi Ashileni. Vadayin Kaim, and he's still alive. So Taisvis, the Rashbam and Taisvis both say, Zok Taisvis, Hai Tana Savar, that Eliyahu lay have a Pinchas. That Eliyahu is not Pinchas. Do you have a Pinchas? Bebatzir Mishiva have a Motzi Lashkuche, the Yaira Yaakov Ira Pinchas. It could have been a lot less than 7, because if Pinchas is Eliyahu, so Pinchas already saw Pinchas already saw Moshe, and Moshe saw Amram. That's all you would need to say. So this Taisvis Beferish and the Rashbam both say that the Gemara does not hold that Eliyahu and Pinchas were the same person. So Agav, once I was looking at this Gemara, we just had in Chulin Daf Samach, the Gemara talks about in Daf Yomi, we just had it, that the Gemara talks about the Sara Olam. And Pashup Shah, who's the Sara Olam? It's Matatrain. Who is Matatrain? Matatrain is Chanoich, Alpi Pashtas. Chanoich, once he became a Malach, he turned into Matatrain. Now over there, the Gemara is talking about Sheshis Yimei Bereshis. So Frek Taisis over there, that the Chayra Matatrain, the Sara Olam, was not around yet, because Chanoich was not around. So what is the Gemara saying, that the Sara Olam was talking during Sheshis Yimei Bereshis if Chanoich wasn't even around? He wasn't born yet. He didn't turn into Matatron yet. So Taisvis, it's not just like a Kabbalistic thing that Chanoich and Matatron. Taisvis is busy with it. So I was thinking in this Gemara also, l'chayra, if Chanoich was turned into Matatron, then you can say 3 people surpassed the world. They lived throughout the entire world. Chanoich saw Adam, and actually 2 people. Chanoich saw Adam, and that's it. You're done, because he's around forever. So then I saw Rashbam asked the kasha. The Rashbam says this Tana doesn't hold that Chanoich is Matatron, and therefore you can't use that. So the Rashbam Mamash asked the kasha, and then I saw a fascinating Ramban. So Taisvis doesn't ask the kasha if Chanoich is Matatron. Why didn't Taisvis ask it? Taisvis is busy with Pinchas and Eliyahu. So the Ramban over there in Bava Basra says in Moedik Eloshen, he says, V'loi nehira, the command of Mesudami, Sharei Nestalku, they're no longer around. Aval Eliyahu matzei ba'olam ve'im haru'uyin loi. Eliyahu comes to visit, and whoever's ready to see him. So that's why it could be Taisus only asked from Pinchas and Eliyahu, but Matatron and Chanoich, Taisus never asked, because Taisus held like the Ramban that there's a difference between Chanoich turning into Matatron, where he's strictly a Malach, he has nothing to do with this world, not in a physical sense, and Eliyahu comes as a Adam. It gets into the whole shmooze of exactly what Eliyahu is when he comes. So just fascinating stuff. But anyways, so we have here a machlokes, huge machlokes. It's not just a pashat azach that Pinchas and Eliyahu were the same person. On the one hand, we have Targum Yonasan, and we have the Pirkei Belezer, and we have the Rishonim, and Lamaisa Klal Yisrael goes that Pinchas and Eliyahu were the same person. But Taisvis Mefurish in Bava Basra Kuf Chafal and Beis says that Eliyahu, the Gemara held, it's a Seder Olam, the Gemara held that Eliyahu and Pinchas weren't the same person. There's one more Geshmak Makom, which I saw, that the Gemara cited Daf Yud Gimel Amud Aleph says Eliyahu is the Talmud of Moshe. So Rashi says not that he mamish learned from him, but he learned the Torah of Moshe. So it's not mamish a Talmud of him. So the Maratz Chi over there says that Rashi is going like the Mandamar, that Eliyahu and Pinchas are not the same person. But if Eliyahu and Pinchas are the same person, then Eliyahu mamish learned from Moshe Rabbeinu. Pinchas, he was Pinchas. Pinchas learned from Moshe Rabbeinu. He mamish heard. You can learn the Gemara Kipshutei. Obviously, Rashi wasn't going that that when Eliyahu Tamish Moshe, Rashi wasn't going that Pinchas and Eliyahu are the same person. Lamaisa, the Eben Ezra in our parsha says Beferish also, like Taisvis in Baba Basra Kuf Chaf Alf on the base, Ibn Ezra says in the pasuk that v'haisa loyu lazare acharav bris kuhunas olam, which means that him and his children will be Kohanim after him. Zakta Ibn Ezra pasuk Yud Gimel umilas achrav la'ois shemeis ve'ein Eliyahu klal. It has to be that he died, because what's achrav? What's after him? If he didn't die, then there is no more. There is no after him. Okay, that you could still say, but the Ibn Ezra says that Pinchas was not Eliyahu, and the lashon of achrav is a raya muchachas that Pinchas died, and Eliyahu is somebody else. L'maaseh Rabbeinu Bachya in our parsha, he says, "What's the pshat? Why would Pinchas be zeicha to be Eliyahu?" So he says that if not for Pinchas coming around and saving Klal Yisrael would have been over. He says the chema would have the chema of HaKadosh Baruch Hu would have destroyed Klal Yisrael. So Kumtais, what did Pinchas do by taking care of the Maisa, by being a Kanoi and taking care of the Maisa of Zimri and Cosby? What did Pinchas do? He made Klal Yisrael have a kiyum forever and ever. So Mida Keneged Mida, Zakta Beinu Bachya, his lashon is Ulekach Zacha Lichyos La'ein Tachlis Mida Keneged Mida Ki Pinchas Eliyahu, because Pinchas is Eliyahu. And he also says later, Rabbeinu Bachya, he says that in the pasuk Lachein Emor Hinani Noisan Layis Brisi Shalom. What's Shalom? Shalom, we said, is like the Baal HaTurim says, is a cut off of. So really, you could read it Shalom, complete. Zakta Beinu Bachya, it's Nutrikin, it's short for Shaloi Lamus, that he won't die. That is what Shalom is, Shaloi Lamus, that he won't die. So Rabbeinu Bachya goes to Mahalach that Pinchas was Eliyahu. He goes through it and he explains Mida Keneged Mida. He says where Chazal got it from that Gemara in Baba Basra, that why is he a Kohen? L'maisa, Taisus and the Ibn Ezra on the other side, Taisus in the Gemara and Rashi also in Saita say that Pinchas was not Eliyahu. Okay, but where did they know? Where did the Baal HaTurim say he knows it from? Because the vav is katia, the vav is cut off. The vav in the pasuk Hineni Noisan Layis Brisi Shalom, it's cut off. L'maisa, the Gemara in Kedushin Daf Samach Vavam Beis, the Gemara has a different drasha from Lachein Emor Hineni Noisan Layis Brisi Shalom. The Gemara asks, Baal Mum Daveidasei Psula Minalan. How do you know that a Baal Mum, when he does Avodah, it's puzzle? So Amar Bida Amar Shmuel the Amar Kra, because the pasuk says Lachein Emor Hineni Noisan Layis Brisi Shalom, that I am giving him a bris of Shalom. Kishuhu Shalom v'loy kishuhu chaser, when he's complete and not when he's missing. So fact the Gemara v'has Shalom ksiv, it says with a vav. So Amar Nachman vav de Shalom ketiyahi, the vav of Shalom is cut off. So the Gemara learns out from here, from the fact that the vav is cut off, that only if you're tamim, if you're shalom, could you do avodah. But if you're a Baal Mum, if you are not shalom, you cannot do avodah. So the kasha on this is that the Rambam does not bring this halacha anywhere. The Rambam doesn't say that the vav of shalom is cut off. So the big shaila is that all the achreinim much is a. Well, why didn't the Rambam bring this shaila? B'emes, you have to know that there's mefurish psukim that Baal Mum can't do avodah. It's a mefurish zach. The Taisus and Zvachim Tazvavam Beis says that the Dibar Maschel Zarva Einin Hadalai Tana Baal Mum Ushtuyayin Purish Mishum Dechsiv Behen Chilul Behedia, because it's beferish psukim. So what's this extra pasuk coming to teach you that you wouldn't know? What's going on? Rashi over there, the last Rashi says that the Gemara is going Bal Mum im Avad Chilal. If he does Avodah, it's Mechalal. The Chsiv, because the pasuk says Mum Boy V'lo Yichalos Mikdashi. So Rashi brings the pasuk that says Beferish that someone who's a Bal Mum is Mechal the Avodah, is passes the Avodah. So the Shitim Kubetzes right over here, he asks Tema. Frag the Shita, Amayle Pirish Hacha Kedemafik Beperik Ha'aimer B'Seifei Mibrisi Shalom Keshu Shalom V'Loi Keshu Chasim. So the Shita Taka asks on Rashi, why did Rashi bring the Beferish pasuk? Why didn't he bring the pasuk that we have the Drasha and Kedushin? So the Shita answers that really Rashi in Kedushin already answered, because the Gemara over here is talking about when the Baal Mum, if he does Avodah, when he didn't know that he was a Baal Mum, he only found it out once he was in the middle of doing the Avodah. So that's what the Gemara is over here is coming to include. The Gemara is coming to say that, if somebody knows he's a Baal Mum and he does Avodah, that's the Beferish pasuk. But if somebody doesn't know and then he finds out in middle, how do we know that it's still puzzle? That's what that Gemara in Kedusha Samach Vav, Keshu Shalom V'Loi Keshu Chassid, that's what it's coming to include. That's the Shita, and that's why you need the two psukim. The Das Kainim in Parshas Amor, Das Kainim on the pasuk of Asher Yeh By Mum Lo Yikrav, which is Perek Chaf Aleph, pasuk Yitzayin, frag the Das Kainim, Tema, amay matzuchinim b'meseches kedushin kra, hineni naisan la'is brisi shalom laimar keshu shalom v'loi keshu chaser, tepik le mehacha v'tzorchim. The Das Kainim asks, it's mamish apella, what do you need a pasuk for? In Bamidbar, hineni naisan la'is brisi shalom, what do you need that pasuk for? L'chayra, it's a mefurish pasuk in Parshas Emor that a Baal Mum can't do Avodah. So what's going on? Why do you need this pasuk in Kedushin to tell you that a Baal Mum can't do Avodah? So the Minchas Chinuch in Mitzvah Reish Ayin Hey Vav bombs away on this Das Kainim. He says, "What do you mean? Did Taisus learn the Gemara? The Gemara is Mavur. It's talking about if a Baal Mum is in the middle of doing Avodah and he finds out that he did Avodah, that then how do we know that his Avodah is still possible? But Avada, this Psukim in Parshas Emor is talking about if a Baal Mum knows he's a Baal Mum and then he does the Avodah. But we need the pasuk in Kedushin, which is our pasuk in Parshas Pinchas, to tell you Keshu Shalom V'Loi Keshu Chaser if he finds out while he's doing the Avodah. So we have the Minchas Chinuch's kasha on the Das Kainim, and we have the Shitim Kubetzes and Zvachim Daf Tazvav Beis, and we have the kasha on the Rambam of why did the Rambam leave this out. So there's a fascinating tshuva from Reb Kiva Eger. It's in Kama Ayin Hey, where Reb Kiva Eger was asked, how do you write this cut off vav? This vav that's supposed to be cut off. How are you supposed to write it? Is it a small yud? Is it just a yud? Is it a small vav? Is it a regular vav just with a cut in the middle? It's a ganze shaila. How do you write this in the Sefer Torah? So in Teich the Tshuva, it's a fascinating tshuva. He brings from Rabbeinu Bachya in our parsha that Rabbeinu Bachya just calls it a small vav, a vav zeira. He says from Rabbeinu Bachya it sounds like it's a small vav. Lamaisa, Kiva Eger brings the kasha on the Rambam, and he brings from the Sefer Bate Kahuna Marganisa Tava Shehevi B'Shem Chachmei Venetzia. That he brings mamish, it's a beautiful jewel that was said in the name of Chachmei Venetzia. If you look at Rashi in Kedushin Samach Vav Beis, when the Gemara asks, how do you know a Baal Mum that does Avodah is puzzle? Rashi says that it's talking about here when he did it without Yediyah, like we said, but Rashi legs to a couple more words. He says, Minalon deloy machsharina le mehai kra de v'haisa loy lazari achrav. How do you know that you're not machshir him from the pasuk of v'haisa loy lazari achrav? So what's Rashi talking about? Because the Gemara before said that ben grusha and ben chalutza, that if they do avodah meaning they did avodah and then they find out they're ben grusha ben chalutza. So how do you know that their avodah is kosher? So the Gemara says Gemara brings three Amayraim, three different psukim. One of them is v'haisa loyu l'zari acharav bein zera kosher ubein zera apostle. Whether the kids are kosher, whether they're apostle. So the limud is from here that a ben grusha ben chalutza, that they find out they're doing avodah, but the evid is kosher. Shmuel says it's from a pasuk Barech Hashem Cheloi Upayel Yadav Tirza Afilu Chulin Shabai Tirza, that even if they're a chalal, because the son of a ben grusha ben chalutza is a chalal, it will still be merutza. And then Rabbi Yanai says Uvasa El HaKohen Asher Yiyeh Bayamim Hahem, and he darshans how you know it. So Zok the Bate Kahuna from the Chachmei Venitzia, that the whole reason why we need a makar to tell you that if a kohen finds out that he's a balmum during the avodah, that it's puzzle, is only lefi the man Amar, only lefi Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel, that says that there's a pasuk of a haisa ulazari achra bein zera kosher bein zera apostle, whether you're kosher, whether you're apostle, only lefi him do you need a limud to tell you that a balmum is puzzle. Why? Because it says bein zera kosher, bein zera apostle. So maybe even if you're a Baal Mum, it should be kosher. B'di'evet. So Zakta Yehuda Mashmul again, we have a drasha that a Baal Mum is puzzle. But according to Shmuel, Avua de Shmuel, that says that the limud how you know a ben grusha ben chalutza is the limud that you know how ben grusha ben chalutza is kosher b'di'evet, it's from Barech Hashem Cheloi, and it says afilu chulin shabai, even if you're a chalal, so then it's only a chalal, but there's no havamina that a balmum should be kosher. So you don't need a limud. That we would know from the regular parsha of a balmum, that a balmum from Parshas Emor, that a balmum can't do akrava. So Zakta Bate Kahuna, that according to Rashi, how Rashi learns the Shah of the Gemara, Balmum Davidase Psula Minalan, that it's only because we have this pasuk of a Haisa Loyu Lazare Acharav, so only because we have that Havamina that even a Balmum should be kosher, so only because of that did we need a new limud from Kishu Shalim V'Loi Kishu Chassid. But without that, according to Avuah de Shmuel, you don't even need this. So Zok the Bate Kahuna Lefi Zeh, the Rambam Mefurish Paskins like the pasuk that the Makar is Baruch Hashem Chelei. So the Rambam didn't need Bichlal this drasha of Vav de Shalom Katiyahu that it's cut off. He didn't need this drasha. It's not necessary. So and he says he was Moisif Tam L'Shvach, meaning that Kivega brings from the Bate Kahuna that it's not mistaver to say that they're actually chaylik if Vav de Shalom Katiyahi, if it's actually cut off. But what comes out is that the Beis Yosef says in the Tshuva that any time something makes an nafkamina la'alacha, then if a drasha makes an nafkamina la'alacha, then you have to, if you change it, if you change the size or the mole and the chaser, if you change it, it becomes puzzle. But if it doesn't make an nafkamina la'alacha from the drasha, so then b'di'evet it's kosher. So that's what's coming out. That's what's even better. He's saying, like Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel, that we need this drasha la'alacha, that the vav is cut off to tell you that a balmum, if he finds out while he's doing avodah, that it's puzzle. So then, it would be ma'akiv in a Sefer Torah to make sure the vav is cut off. But like Avuah de Shmuel, that you don't need this drasha because we learn it out from Baruch Hashem Chelei, and a balmum is not a chalal, a balmum is puzzle. So you don't need this drasha that the vav is cut off. So then, even though that's how it should be written, but it's not ma'akiv. So the reason why the Rambam never said this, because it's not ma'akiv and it's nichal, and what he wrote in somewhere else that the Kivega brings, kol advarim alalu lo nemri al mitzvahs el mitzvah. It's only lechatchila by the oisius ketanas and gedolos. So Kivega uses this to go on and explain how the vav needs to be written. But what you Lamaisa from Reb Kiva is Miyashiv the Rambam, and Lefizeh the Shmuz Kedushin is Miyashiv Rashi and Zvachim Daf Tesvavam Abeis. The Shita asked that why didn't Rashi bring the pasuk of our pasuk of Kashu Shalom V'Loi Kashu Chaser? Why didn't Rashi bring that pasuk? So Zakt the Shmuz Kedushin, because Rashi held like this Batikuna that you only need this pasuk in Kedushin, you only need our pasuk in Parshas Pinchas, Kashu Shalom V'Loi Kashu Chaser, according to Rabbi Yehuda Shmuel, but according to Avuah de Shmuel, that you don't need this pasuk, so that you can just bring the regular pasuk of Kalmum La'yeh Karav. And this would also answer the Minchas Chinuch's kasha on the Das Kenim, Ayin Sham in the Hagah and the Minchas Chinuch says that it would answer. I'm not so clear in how it would answer the kasha, but Ayin Sham, he uses it to answer this kasha. Lamaisa, it was bothering me that this is a Geshmak Shmuz of Vav de Shalom Ketia. It's cut off, and we learn out a halacha here of Kashu Shalom V'Loi Kashu Chaser. But why was this said to Pinchas? Why is this din that a Baal Mum that does Avaida is puzzle? L'chayra, it should have been said in Parshas Emor, where it said the halacha of Baal Mum. So I saw in a sefer from, I think his name is Reb Nechemya Natausen, that he asked this kasha, and he says a ga'aynis de kipshat. He says the Gemara in Sanhedrin Pei Beis Amud Aleph says that somebody who's bayil a bas nechar, somebody who's bayil an aramis, the pasuk says Yichras Hashem leish asher yasena erva aina Yaakov umegish mincha laHashem tzavakos. What does that mean? Im Talmud Chacham hu lo yiyeh lo erbe chachma v'ayna b'talmidim. Im Kohein hu lo yiyeh lo ben magish mincha laHashem tzavakos. That if he's a Kohein, he will not have a son that does hakrava. So Zakta Sifsei, he says that how could it be that you'll have a son, a Kohen will have a son that won't be able to be makriv? A Kohen is bechefza a Kohen. A Kohen is a Kohen. So he says, Elamai, the einish would be is that all your kids will be Bali Mumen, and they won't be able to do the akrava. That's what the pasuk is saying. Somebody who's bayil aramis, this is what the Gemara in Sanhedrin Pei Beis Amud Aleph is saying, that somebody who's bayil in aramis, if they're a Kohen, their kids will be Bali Mumen. So zak there, that's the midah keneged midah for Pinchas. Pinchas saved Klal Yisrael from being bayil aramis. So the bracha to him was that v'haisa loy l'zari achrav. That l'chein emor hineni noisen loy as brisi shalom. That they will be tamimim. They won't be bali mumen. That is the bracha to Pinchas, and he even says that we're not even learning out the Torah just said that was his bracha. Agav, you learn out from there that a Baal Mum is puzzle, because the bracha to Pinchas was that his kids won't be Bali Mumen. So that's what you learn out from this pasuk. So that's a Geshmak Pshat, Mamish Ga'inus, to still to this Gemara in Sanhedrin, Pei Beis Amud Aleph. The shaila is though that like we brought from the Gemara. The pasuk afterwards says, that Pinchas will have to him and his children a bris of kahuna forever. And the Gemara in Kedushin Samach Vav Amud Beis learns out from there, Bein Zera Kasher, Bein Zera Apostle, that whether your kids are kshem, whether they're psulim, they'll still, if they do that avodah, it will be kosher. So the shaila still is, why do we learn out that drasha from here? He answers why we learn out the drasha of a Baal Mum, that a Baal Mum that does avodah is puzzle. But why do we learn out that when a Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza does avodah, that is kosher? Bein Zera kosher, Bein Zera puzzle. Why do we learn that halacha out from over here? So I wanted to be makdim a bissel. There's a big shaila, when did Pinchas become a Kohen? The Pashup Pshat is Rashi brings it. It's a Gemara in Zvachim Kuf Aleph Amud Beis that when Aaron Ubanav became Kohanim, Pinchas did not become a Kohen. He was a grandson. Only Aaron and his sons. When did he become a Kohen? Now is when he became a Kohen. When he killed Zimri, he got the kahuna. But the Zohar is mashma that Pinchas became a Kohen right away. Hitaka was a Kohen. So Ibazeh, the shaila is why did he need to become a Kohen again? What's going on? So the Zohar goes, and really the Cheskuni says it by us, that the lashon is Zakta Cheskuni in Pasuk Yud Beis. Davar acher brisi shalom doyig haya pen yafsid kuhnasa. He was scared he was going to lose his kahuna. Darmina and kain sharagas anevish la yisla es kapel. Achi ifticha yakodesh baruch hu hayil v'ratzicha l'shem shemayim ha'isek m'mayishim farish v'hayach. So Pinchas was a kain, but he was scared he was going to lose becoming a kain because he killed someone. And the halach is if you kill someone, you lose becoming a kain. So that was the haftacha that he's still going to be a kain. I saw a mamish a hafladik pshat from Reb David Yoel Weiss in Megadim Chadashim. He says that the Zohar says that when Pinchas killed Zimri, Shevet Shimon came to kill him, and his neshama left, and afterwards he got the neshama of Nadav and Avihu. So Pinchas Taka died from the pachad, and he got the neshama of Nadav and Avihu. And he brings it from another sefer, Matnas Kahuna, and so he's mamish a beria chadasha. So he brings from Kuntris over Ireach, not sure who that is, but he says the halacha is that a kohen that dies and he comes back alive, he has no more kahuna. There's no more kahuna. He's a naya beria. So lefizeh. Zakta Megadim Chadashim, that it could be that since the Zohar Alain says that Pinchas lost his neshama from the pachad and he taka died and he came back as with a neshama of Nadav and Avihu, a new beria. That's why the Eibishter promised him to become a Kohen again. I was just thinking to Stelzu, the Even Ezra that we said. The Even Ezra says that because it says V'haisa Loyal Azari Acharov, that Acharov means that Pinchas died. So it must mean that Pinchas is not Eliyahu. But like this shtickle, yeah, Pinchas died. He came back. So Acharov could still work, even if Pinchas is Eliyahu. You don't have to say, the Even Ezra's raya, you could say is not such a stark raya, because you could say that Pinchas Taka died and he came back. But on the other side, that Pinchas never became a Kohen until he killed Zimri. It always bothered me. Why? What's the pshat? I've asked this in my house many Parshas Pinchases and many other Parshias. Why didn't Pinchas become a Kohen? Everybody always says, the Ramban says it multiple times. It's a Gemara in Zvachim Kafal Beis. Why did Pinchas not become a Kohen at that time? Why was it only Miyuchid? Aaron Ubanav, Aaron and his sons, but the grandson? No, you're a grandson, you're not included. What's the pshat? I never saw a pshat until this year. Baruch Hashem, the Eibishter gave me a schus. I saw that the Meshech Chachma, Remeir Simcha, he brings a Moedike Even Ezra. The Even Ezra in Shmois Chav Ches Aleph says a hafladike zach. He says Bavur Perek Chav Ches Pasuk Aleph. He says Ukvar Ramazti Lach Lama Nifcha Aaron Lakdishay Lashem Bavur Kvoid Mishpachas Nachshein Sheyu HaKehanim Mechapim Al Bnei Yisrael. That because of who Aaron married, he married Nachshain's sister Elisheva. Because of who he married, that's why he was Zeicha to Kahuna. So if you, Remeir Simcha says, this is the pshat. The Bnei Moshe, they weren't Zeicha to be a Kohen. Why? Because they were from a daughter of Yisrael. They were not. They weren't miyuchas. The Bnei Aaron, they were miyuchas. They came from a chashuv mishpacha, so they were able to be kohanim. Zokter Meir Simcha Lefizeh, Pinchas was the Gemara was Bas Putiel, and the Gemara learns that he was also Eliezer married maybe Yisrael's Einikol of Yisrael, so Pinchas was not a miyuchas, and therefore he wasn't able to become a Kohen yet, just like Moshe's sons weren't Kohanim. So Meir Simcha's mamish answering my kasha. He's saying, why wasn't Pinchas a Kohen? Because he didn't have the yichus. Come to Eibishter. The Eibishter says, now you're Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aaron. It goes after the father. That's what he's being mechadish. It goes after the father. And that's what the pasuk says. V'haisa loyu lazare acharav bris kahunas olam. What do we learn now? Bein zera kasher, bein zera apostle. What is that? That's a case of when the mother is a grusha, or the mother is a chalutza. So we're learning out, the Eibishter is saying, that it's all tully in the father. It's not tully in the mother. That was why this halacha is taught over here. It was b'schus Pinchas. B'schus Pinchas, the Kohanim were zeicha that somebody who's a ben grusha, ben chalutza, b'diavad if they do avodah is kosher. It's all b'schus Pinchas. It's amazing. The pshat and the psukim over here, Meir Simcha saying it's all stims, and so Zakta Meir Simcha, Lefizeh, he says that the Sifri learns v'haisa lo yulazari achav bris kuhunas eilam. That's going on Kahuna Gedola. That Kiyadua from Pinchas came a lot of Kohanim. So Zakta Meir Simcha, he stells through the Gemara in Kedushin, Daf Samach Vav Amud Beis, that we were busy with for a long time. And he says that the chiddush of the pasuk is that that even if you're a Kohen Gadol, even if somebody is a Kohen Gadol, and they find out that they're a Ben Grusha, Ben Chalutza, the Avodah will still be kosher, even for Avodas that only a Kohen Gadol is kosher. Let's say for Avodas Yom Kippur. This is a massive chiddush, that the Torah is being mechadish over here, that even if you're a Kohen Gadol, and you find out that you're a Ben Grusha, Ben Chalutza, still the Avodah is kosher. And he says that's the only reason why you would think that a Baal Mum would also be kosher. Because we have such a big chiddush that a Kohen Gadol is even a Kohen Gadol that finds out that he's doing Avodah. So he says that you need both psukim. Baruch Hashem Cheloi tells you that if you're a chalal, if you're a Ben Grusha, Ben Chalutza, that your avodah, if you find out your avodah is kosher. But how do you know if you're a Kohen Gadol that you bein zera kosher, bein zera? How do you know that if you're a Kohen Gadol and you find out you're a Ben Grusha, Ben Chalutza? How do you know that? That you still need that even like Avud the Shmuel that learns out the pasuk from Baruch Hashem Chela, you still need a command to the pasuk of V'haisa lo yilazari achav, and only then do you have a havamina that a Baal Mum could also be kosher. L'maisa, we learn out Shalim v'lo kashu chassid. So very cryptic words at the end of Meir Simcha. But now that we know the shmuz, he says, "Ubazed nidchu divrei habate kahuna huva b'shchailus u'tshuvasim kiveger simenayin he legabe vav ketia." Says, like what I'm saying, the whole shtickle tire of the bate kahuna that kiveger brings is ice. Why? Because Meir Simcha is saying that you do need both psukim. You need both psukim to tell you this chiddush. You need Baruch Hashem Cheloi, and then you need V'haisa lo yilazari achrav to tell you that even a Kohen Gadol, and only then do you have a havamina of a Baal Mum. So Meir Simcha answers all the kashas. He answers number one: why did Pinchas not become a Kohen right away? He answers that kasha. Why is this drasha v'haisa lo yilazari achrav bein zera kasher bein zera apostle? Why is it said over here? It's said over here because that was only b'schus Pinchas that we go basa the father. Why does the pasuk continue to say that a Baal Mum is apostle? Because only once we know that zera apostle, only once we know this do you say that. So this Meir Simcha is a mamish moedik baruch shematzasi. Yashikech.